The return of raids. Wing 8 is dropping. Janthir Wilds Godspawn is just around the corner. We, of course, got the Convergence, the raid. We've got bears back in the mix. No new map this time, but, of course, the story continues. And the legendary spear is also dropping as well. We've got a couple of pretty interesting details about kind of what's in store, what's going to be going on here. Some information about the structure of the raid. And pretty cool stuff for the legendary spear too, by the way. This is something that I think people expected a little bit, but this has actually been confirmed in an MMORPG.com article. There will be variants of the legendary spear. There's basically going to be 6 different looks you can have for it as well, which is cool. We'll kind of talk about that a little bit in a moment as well. Yeah, and that's it. We've got this cool trail. Look out, there's the spear. Enjoy it. Embrace it. Look, you can definitely give things a proper poke with that, can't you? And you'll be able to kind of customize it to, you know, whatever character you might want to use it on there as well. The Titans are back. They're in the raid this time. Look at that. The arrows are moving. This is wild. Okay, this is absolutely crazy stuff. Okay, some really cool roleplay. This kind of thing going on in the background. There was the Convergence, actually. Basically, the you know, Stoic Alder is telling you a story, which I actually think is really nice RP. But yeah, you can kind of see a summary of what's going on. Mount Balrior, the raid and Convergence. We have the legendary spear. We have the story. Trial and Error Battles Eve Balrior Peak as well. So it's going to be a lot of different versions of Titans, right? You've got the Titans in the raid, in the Convergence, and of course in the story as well. New homesteading mastery. So you've got more stuff you can make in your homestead. Of course, the new Wizard's Vault, new relics, and just the usual stuff. You got more loot. Okay, and then, guys, this is my favorite part of the trailer. Let me just tell you this. Okay, I love this. Yeah, we go over here. Godspawn, it arrives, and then, oh yeah, you buy the game using my referral link. Boom, just get it in there. Ultimate Edition right away. Love to see that. Anyway, let's get into the studio update. Wrapping up for 2024. Okay. Literacy rates in the Guild Wars 2 community are going down, and that's why I am reading this post to you. Let's do this. It's hard to believe that it's already been a few months since Guild Wars 2 Janthir Wilds launched. As we wind down 2024, we'd like to give the community an update about all things Guild Wars 2. You know, it's weird. It's felt like quite a long time to me, actually. Right? I've been waiting for a while for a bit of fresh content, you know, but you know, we're here now. Time flies. Our 5th expansion added one of the most requested features to the game, homesteads. Yeah, I mean, player housing, definitely a big one. You also got to experience the beauty of Lowland Shores and survive the dangers of Janthir Century with your new allies, the Lowland Coden. With the Coden's help, you were taught to wield spears and ride the Warclaw like you've never done before. But Janthir Wilds has just begun, and in 1 week, you're about to join forces, tackle our first raid in 5 years, craft a new legendary spear, and continue your story with the Lowland Coden. Wow, new raid. It's on a mountain. Very exciting. Look at that. Guild Wars 2, Janthir Wilds, Godspawn. Of course, it's the first quarterly update. And it's going to be very interesting to see how this goes down, because there is no open world map, guys. Bear this in mind. I'm hoping we do see some content added, actually, to older maps. Like Janthir Century is a little on the barren side, particularly some of the northwestern area, kind of that sulfurous area. Not really a lot going on there. So I'd actually like to see them add a couple of new events and kind of fresh content to this map, kind of instead of a new map. Of course, the new map, well, there's going to be 2 new maps actually with the 2nd and 3rd update later on. So it will be interesting. This is going to be a very weird experience from a Guild Wars 2 player perspective. This will be one of the only updates that's only adding essentially instance content, story instances, the raid, and the Convergence. So, well, there'll probably be some open world like story elements too, like going around the old maps as well. But, like, you know, that's not the same thing as adding a new map, obviously. But I am hoping we see some updates, because Janthir Century is not on the same level of polish or kind of bustling energy as the first map. So that would be nice to see there as well. In addition to new story chapters, there will also be a new raid and Convergence, the new Legendary Spear, along with a new Wizard's Vault season, relics, weapon, and armor rewards. A mastery update, and new homestead decorations. Stay tuned for previews of the new rewards and Wizard Vault refresh on our launch day blogs. There's going to be some more details about this kind of stuff dropping there as well. Raids are back. We are so back. In next week's update, we'll be introducing our new 10-person raid, which will take you to Mount Balrior. It features 3 bosses and several smaller varied encounters that will test your coordination and adaptability. So this is actually a really key thing, in my opinion. So this is really important. There was definitely a lot of worry that it was basically going to be 3 strike mission bosses in a row with nothing in between them. I actually really like that they've gone to the effort of adding some kind of intermission events between the encounters. That actually sounds really cool to me. That's kind of, it really leans into the raid experience of like the raids that already exist in the game. And a really important part of it, definitely from my perspective, because I like speedrunning and stuff, and having these extra encounters that you can kind of optimize and break up the action and kind of increase immersion, I think is really important there. So, big fan of this. Hopefully we're not in for another Spirit run. That maybe not that is what we're looking for there, but this is actually a good sign in my opinion. Definitely interesting to see what they've cooked up. I'm definitely expecting it to include the Warclaw, actually, in some way, right? There's maybe like a Warclaw little race event or something like that. You'll have to do a little course to get to the next boss. I could certainly see something like that. Maybe you've got to chase down the bosses with your Warclaw and like pull them over and then fight them as a raid boss. Could be pretty cool. At the heart of Mount Balrior's narrative are Greer, the Blightbringer, and Decima, the Stormsinger, the 2 titans you battled in Janthir Sintry. After their defeat, they've retreated to Mount Balrior to recover and regroup. This time, they won't be alone. Their raid versions bring back the chaotic, relentless attacks of Greer and the structured strategic mechanics of Decima, but cranked up to new levels of intensity. Expect familiar moves executed in ways that will keep your group on their toes, along with a few completely new surprises that Greer and Decima have in store. So it's going to be using similar attack patterns to the open world version then basically in the raid, but with a couple of extra kind of more raid dedicated mechanics as well. One thing here is a thing. Notice this. They mentioned 2 bosses, and initially you might be going, oh, alarm bells ringing. It's going to be 2 bosses and an encounter like Bandit Trio or, you know, I don't know, you know, the road event in Wing 5. We actually happen to know that isn't the case. Roy, you know, ArenaNet Roy, World versus World leader, accidentally, well, he showed his achievement panel in a World versus World stream just the other day. That actually confirmed that there is another encounter. It's going to be Ura, the kind of 3rd Titan that we haven't encountered yet. We've already seen that achievement exists in the game, as it was shown on a Guild Wars 2 livestream accidentally, so nobody panic. It is going to be a 3-boss raid with Greer, Decima, and Ura. Again, Ura presumably going to be the final encounter, with Greer and Decima being earlier on in the fight. So yeah, there you go. That's the information there, but they're, you know, I guess they're keeping it a little bit close to the chest on this one, which is fair enough, I suppose. With that one, they want to keep the story element, like who is this mysterious character, under lock and key. I get it. You know, I get that. But we'll see how that turns out. And there you go. You can kind of see Decima kind of in on the action here as well. Ready to pump there. And, you know, again, kind of similar attack moves there. We'll kind of have a look at the trailer as well. You can kind of see in the trailer, if we go up here to where they're showing off some of the Decima fight. Where is it? It's here. So you can kind of see we have similar attacks here. We've got loads of AoEs going out, of course. Looks like we've got like lines happening, like loads of AoEs dropping. And of course, these arrows are even moving and potentially following players there. So the green ones you have to stand in. Probably don't want to stand in the orange ones. So we'll see what they've actually cooked up and how it's going to work. This time, though, you can kind of see there's like some more attacks that Decima has, so you're going to have to quickly move to the other side of the encounter to not get one shot, and then like dodge away very quickly, right? So you can see that they are mixing things up. It's not just going to be a carbon copy of the open world. That would be a little bit on the disappointing side, I think. Let's be honest here. For a different flavor of group content, we're also launching a new Convergence in the Godspawn update. Like the Convergence in Guild Wars 2, Secrets of the Obscure, up to 50 players can participate in public squads every 3 hours, with private squads able to start anytime. Expect a challenge comparable to Guild Wars 2 Soto Convergence bosses, with most groups completing it in 20-30 minutes. Basically, very easy, but we're adding a CM later, right? So, fair enough. In this journey, Stoic Older, the Claw of the Lowland Coden, narrates your adventure to young Coden cubs, adding a unique story twist with every playthrough. That's kind of cool, actually. I really like the premise of this Convergence, like the role play that you're being told the story and you're kind of experiencing it, you know, from the perspective of someone listening to this, you know, this claw. Very cool. And of course, you know, it makes sense, right? You're going to have these little embellishments of the story, right? And the framing in the trailer is that it's the story of how the Wayfinder and Stoic Older defeated the Titans, right, and climbed the mountain, right? So you have these embellishments. I like that a lot from an immersion and roleplay perspective. So I like touches like that. I do. Fans of Greer and Decima will find familiar attacks, but with adaptations that make this event a fresh experience. As our first multi-purpose map, Mount Balrio includes hidden passages and adapted designs, setting the stage for future rotations of bosses and a challenge mode arriving later on. Yeah, pretty cool, right? I think the challenge mode is particularly interesting to me, because I really like stuff like Dragon's End and Triple Trouble, like challenging open world content, but there is an issue where they've had to brutally nerf stuff like Dragon's End to the point where it's not very interesting to me anymore because it's too easy, because it's in the open world and there's some friction there. But in the challenge, you know, if you've got a challenge mode instance that you opt into, nobody can complain about that, right? Nobody can say you have to nerf this is too difficult. It's a challenge mode. It's supposed to be hard. So I'm actually really interested to see what they actually cook up with this. But that is the last update, so we've got a bit of time to wait for that. It's going to be the third quarterly update for those Convergence CMs, but I just think really cool, really exciting potential that they could make some legitimately challenging high player count content, that really like big, mega raid experience, having 50 people defeating a boss that could actually have some decent challenge to it, as opposed to, you know, what we're used to in Guild Wars 2 Open World, which is essentially trivial content. You don't really have that guild group coordination element and like, you know, requiring decent performance, like, you know, good DPS, good healing output, good movement, right? Like, you know, doing the mechanics correctly. So this is very interesting to me, very exciting. So I'm looking forward to the Convergence CMs quite a bit, actually. And yeah, we're going to hear some more information about Convergences, and I'm going to make a bit of a prediction here because we do have a little bit of extra insight in this from a great article on MMORPG.com here, as you can see. So, well, one, Legendary Spear, 6 different possible looks for the blade. Really cool. I was definitely hoping it was going to go that direction. I imagine this is going to be similar to EOD. You'll probably craft, like, the base version, right? And then you'll be able to, like, upgrade it and unlock different skins similar to the variants. So that's really cool. For a start. But there's another piece of really good information here in this article. And that is actually the fact that this time, it looks like the Convergence is just going to be launching with Decima. And my prediction is that this is going to be very similar to how they did this with Convergences in Soto, so that we're probably going to be adding Greer and Ura later on. And again, this, you know, maybe we'll get some more clarity on exactly what this is going to look like, but let's just quickly read this so you know I'm not just talking out my ass here. This time, you'll face challenges and objectives to complete in the Convergence, which features a reinterpretation of the Titan Decima. So it looks like it's Decima, and they're going to add more later. Presumably, right? Because it would be kind of weird to have all 3 of them in the raid, but not all 3 of them within the Convergence. That would be, I think, a little unfair to players who maybe don't want to raid, but only want to have that kind of open world meta event experience in the Convergence. So there you go. And, you know, kind of speaking of the Legendary Spear, right? The other thing about the Legendary Spear is that it's very likely to require either engaging in the raid or the Convergence. I don't think the raid will be mandatory, by the way. I think that's fairly unlikely, but I think you'll probably have to do the Convergence, which is essentially the same as doing an open world meta event, which I think is completely fair, of course. But here's Legendary Spear, looks pretty cool, and yeah, that's going to be attached to it because the raid is integrated into the story, and I imagine kind of some of the key reward structures for this patch will also be integrated into the raid and into the Convergence. You'll probably be able to do either of them, right? Like, you can either do the raid or the Convergence, and that will allow you to complete this Legendary Spear. Is probably how it's going to go down there as well. Okay, so we've got all that out of the way, raids and Convergences, and okay, now it's time for a complaining session. So many of you may be aware that there was a World versus World stream just the other day, and people were really excited for it. Like, you know, whoa, it's a stream. This is a big deal. This is big news. Can't wait to hear Roy and Cecil just obliterate, just go crazy, and announce epic things for World versus World. Players have long been awaiting an update to what's going on with World restructuring, what's going on with making winning matter, right? Which is, you know, a goal for the company, right, when it comes to World versus World. This is something that people are really passionate about and want to see information on. Now, I'll summarize what actually happened in the World versus World stream in another video, I think, but here's the very, very fast cliff notes on this. They didn't talk about winning mattering. They didn't talk about many of the issues that players are actually concerned about in the game. They instead talked about reworking Siege and implementing victory points into the game, and a couple of other kind of minor gameplay tweaks. As you can imagine, players were not expecting that, because, you know, I think the last time we saw a World versus World stream was it actually when Grouch and Ray were on Tea Time talking about, like, actually implementing alliances into the game. It honestly might have been. I can't remember exactly, but that sounds like it could be the case. So people perceive this to be a big deal, and ArenaNet completely failed to meet expectations. Now, that would be bad enough, right? But then this update drops, and guess what happens? Okay? They say, oh yeah, we're refining core systems while we continue planning for some of our larger long-term goals. One major area of focus is incentivizing winning, or in other words, creating shared goals that encourage teamwork. We've consistently heard two key pieces of feedback. Players often have different preferences for defending versus not defending, and more generally, many players feel there aren't enough incentives to win matchups. By aligning team goals around winning, we hope to address both of these issues. It's a big task, but it's one we're dedicated to, and one we're excited to start rolling out improvements on. Why is this annoying to me? Or frustrating, rather? This is frustrating to me because there is a huge amount of negativity around the World versus World stream, and it was pointless and completely unnecessary. Like, if a statement like this had been made on the stream, or if this post had come out before this, and then they'd said, yeah, we're going to be talking about reworking Siege, and a couple of other improvements to the game mode and some long-term goals. Because, by the way, the actual stuff they're adding to World vs. World is actually pretty good. The only thing that's questionable is they're buffing Lord HP. Not sure about that one. We'll see how it goes. But they're adding, like, mega long-term goals with infinite siege that you can get. If you're, like, a mega, like, grinder player, you're going to be able to simplify siege now because there's only one thing. There's not normal, superior, and guild. They're just, like, streamlining that all down. They're adding Demolisher gear to PvE in World vs. World, which is actually really cool. That opens up some pretty decent build options, in my opinion, in both of those game modes. Like, all the changes are good, but the way they communicated it was catastrophic, right? I really have to point this out. The fact that they did it in this order, while saying nothing about their long-term goals in the World vs. World stream, while not saying anything about what to expect in the World vs. World stream, to be frank, it is mind-blowing. Like, that is insane. Because, of course, the most dedicated and, you know, people who love World vs. World showed up to that stream, and they were brutally disappointed, and let's go further. It honestly made ArenaNet look out of touch, right? I really can't overstate, as someone who likes World vs. World, how bad ArenaNet looked on that stream. They didn't address any of the issues that, like, on-the-ground core World vs. World players cared about, and they basically did stuff that nobody was really complaining about, like, wasn't really that relevant instead, right? Oh, it was brutal. It's brutal. And this makes it worse, by the way, because it wasn't necessary, right? Because they're doing it. They're actually doing what people want. This is a major goal for them. They've said it here. Their major long-term goal is major area of is incentivizing winning. And they could just say, yeah, right now, we're going to give you guys some cool long-term rewards to grind. We're going to rework Siege, just simplify it a little bit. And we're going to play around with like, kind of like buffing defending a little bit, because we've heard feedback that defending is, you know, like, stuff's getting flipped too fast. Great. Awesome. But they didn't do that. They didn't set expectations. They didn't manage the community. And as a result of that, they've got a big pile of negativity for no reason. And that, to me, is just frustrating. Because, look, despite popular opinion, I do actually care about this game, right? I really like Guild Wars 2, especially World versus World. And watching this fiasco and then reading this afterwards is brain rot. Like, it's melting my brain. I don't understand why this happened. Like, to be frank, maybe we'll talk about this a little bit more in the future, but I really do think it needs to be someone's job at ArenaNet to communicate and talk to players, right? And set expectations for the player base. And someone needs to be in the trenches, like on social media, in Twitch streams, setting expectations and managing the community, because right now that is not happening. And you might say, oh, it's not a big deal, this is like one instance. This, for anyone who's played Guild Wars 2 long term, everyone knows they've always done it like this. They have always struggled with community management, right? And setting expectations for players. It is not random or a surprise that basically everywhere in terms of Guild Wars 2 discussion, like, you know, social media, Reddit, right, Twitch streams, the forums, all of these places skew negative. It's because ArenaNet's communication style, it makes people detached from the game. It makes people cynical about the game, right? It's... I don't know. It's very frustrating, right? It's very frustrating when this negativity was completely unnecessary because this was dropping the next day, right? They knew they were doing this. And of course, this means that, bear in mind, you know, this just wasn't communicated on the live stream. They could have done that as well. This was just, yeah, this was very bad community management by ArenaNet here. And I think that really has to be criticized because it is a driving factor in negativity, cynicism, and detachment and apathy in the Guild Wars 2 community, right? Like, is a failure to set expectations and manage the community. And, by the way, it does impact the player experience. It is not fun to play a video game when people are always cynical, when people are always doom, or when people just don't care, right? When people have just been burned and they're just not interested anymore. Like, that does not create a fun gaming environment. This is important. It's important to do this, right? Like, when the community is low on morale, it's not fun. And I would really encourage people to think about this. Even if you don't play World vs. World, think how much fun it was to play during the tunnel. Think how much fun it was to play this game during, like, the Soto quarterly updates when everyone was, like, depressed, right, about the game. Yeah, it's not good. Like, when morale is low, it's not fun. It makes the game a worse place to be in because it is a living, breathing online space. This is a big thing that needs to be done. There is a reason why other games have people dedicated to managing the community. It's because it's a big plus for the player base. It makes it more fun. I don't know. Moving on. We're also making some significant scoring adjustments for the first time in a while. This is an essential step in aligning player goals and encouraging teams to prioritize winning together. We updated PPK, points per kill, values, the points for capturing objectives, and will soon launch adjusted victory point numbers tailored to different times and coverage. But yeah, because they had a bit of issues with this last time. And by the way, this could have been another really key part of the messaging. They have stated previously that they want to get the new victory point system in and see how that affects player behavior before they move on to basically looking at reward structures and kind of competitive infrastructure around making winning. I'm done. Okay. Making winning matter. But they didn't say that. They could have reiterated that. They could have communicated that, yeah, we're going to wait until we've got this tested, and then we're going to go onwards, right? That's what needs to happen. In the short term, we've been updating several key parts of World vs. World game elements. We've overhauled the siege system. Yeah, that's happening. That's basically what they talked about in the World vs. World stream. Improved participation. Yeah, another great change, by the way, that's now going to go unsung is that they basically made defense credit not suck. Basically, you can now damage players or damage siege as opposed to needing to get a kill. That's a huge deal, by the way, because right now there's basically no point in trying to defend if you don't think you can actually get a kill. So there's no point in, like, stalling people, trying to delay with siege and stuff like that so reinforcements can get there. No point to do that because you won't get any credit. You'll get no rewards and you'll lose participation, right? Like, the system incentivizes you to not care about defending. They're fixing that. Really good. And introduce new attribute combinations exclusive to World vs. World, alongside tweaks to existing ones that don't impact PvE. Yeah, that's the Celestial change they're talking about there. And they're adding Demolisher, which is also really good. We're also working to adjust certain tactics and strengthen objective lords to better serve as rally points for defenders. Yeah, that one is the slightly sus change. They're basically making the lords in towers and keeps have the same base HP value as Stone Mist Castle. We'll have to see how that one turns out, but, you know, we'll see. Unique skins and fusions, new ways to spend World vs. World currencies, and better skirmish chat rewards. Yeah, and I actually also like the idea of adding infinite siege gizmos, right, for people who play a lot of World vs. World. That's great. I'm going to pick those up on my main for sure. And you now have the Warclaw. Wow, exciting. And we have a couple more updates here as well about competitive stuff. So there's some good stuff here, by the way, too. These are some nice quality of lives. So we've got quality of life coming in there. Very exciting. We're also enhancing the guild panel with a new UI element that displays which members have selected the guild as their World vs. World guild, making it easier for guilds to coordinate their World vs. World activities and avoid the missing team creation lockout deadlines. Very good, because we can now remind people to switch, and of course we can potentially prune members who aren't interested in playing, you know, World vs. World with you, right? Makes sense. Really good UI quality of life for guild leaders and guild organization. Additionally, we're updating the character select screen, replacing world selection with a region selection UI panel. This will allow seamless transfers between North America and European data centers. With this change, inter-region transfers will no longer be necessary, which also eliminates the risk of spending gems on redundant world transfers. Regional transfers will now have a flat cost of 500 gems, simplifying the process. Yep, obviously makes a lot of sense. In there, you get 500 gems a piece now, because yeah, the whole transfer to a server thing was kind of meaningless outside of EU versus NA, which is why they're keeping EU versus NA, because of course servers don't matter anymore outside of I guess a cosmetic thing of what server you're on. Bit of a roleplay thing there as well. Also, for players who took part in our PvP beta push event, we recently sent out a survey to gather feedback on the event, and we'll be reviewing the responses, then determining our next steps for the game mode. There'll be more push news in 2025 as we continue to work with the community on building the push PvP game mode. Oh, there's some potential there. I'm glad they're doing a survey there as well. I'm pretty interested in seeing what they actually cook up with this. I think it could actually be a decent addition to the game. Alongside Conquest, right? They're not doing a stronghold this time, which is good stuff. But yeah, I think push was fun enough. Definitely had some issues, but they can definitely fix them. It is indeed possible. And Guild Wars 2 is coming to the Epic Game Store. So this is kind of similar to Steam, right? They're just trying to get the game in front of new audiences, going over to new markets. Probably not as significant as going to Steam, of course. But, I mean, if it sells extra copies, it sells extra copies, right? It's pretty much a no-lose for ArenaNet. And, of course, this does set them up. Having this partnership with Epic and Steam is huge for when they move forwards. Because bear in mind, guys, we know they're making there's some kind of Guild Wars card game potentially in the works. We saw that playtest on Steam pop up. We know, thanks to the NCSoft leaked meeting, that Guild Wars 3 is potentially on the table. ArenaNet having these connections with these platforms is a big deal, because it means if they do launch a new product, they're going to be able to get that in front of a much wider range of potential customers, potential players as well. So that's why this stuff is important. Is it going to be game-changing right now? No, Steam wasn't either. It added some players, of course. It wasn't nothing. You can see the Steam numbers. They're decent. They're not horrible. But obviously not not mind-blowing. It will be the same here with Epic. While the year may be coming to a close, there's still plenty coming up for Guild Wars 2, and yeah, we get a summary of what's happening. There's actually something that we haven't seen before in November, towards the end of November, right? We have Evan Nashplay's birthday celebration, so kind of a new mini-event there. That could be some content there. That will be interesting to see what that's going to be, but yeah, we've got Godspawn that's coming next week, of course, New Hero Jumpstart event, Epic Game Store launch in November, Winter's End December, then Return to Icebrood Saga in January, PvP Rush event, another Skills and Balance update, and Lunar New Year. So it looks like the next update after this is potentially going to be in February or maybe in March, right? That's what it's going to be looking like for the next quarterly update. In general, I think it will probably be a little bit on the later side. A bit on the later side because, they obviously we kind of take a bit of a break in December, right? ArenaNet doesn't typically do much there. So if you think in terms of 3 months of work, basically, is how long it will take them to kind of get the next update out, it will probably be, yeah, kind of 3 months, very, very late, 2 months or 3 months into 2025 before the next quarterly update. But of course, we'll actually have more info on that when the patch drops, because as many people are now aware, if you look at the special tab in the Wizards Vault, that's basically a countdown till the next patch. Little secret there. So there you go. We'll have more info very, very soon. But there we go. And of course, we end with the roadmap. I guess a bit of a recap here. We've got the story in the update. We've got a raid wing Convergence, new homes and decorations, new relics, which actually, the relics that dropped with Janthir, I think they were a bit of a step in the right direction. Got some pretty interesting ones, like the relic of the Storm Singer, right? Relic of the Blightbringer, relic of the Claw. There's actually some stuff that kind of mixed up the game a little bit, which is kind of cool to see. Their relic design was much better, I think, this time around compared to Soto. It's a good start. Masteries, blah, 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 blah. And of course, the legendary Spear weapon set, Wizards Vault seasonal refresh, and more. So that's it, guys. That is the news. A little bit of a community management rant getting thrown in there as well, just for a little bit of good measure. Love to see that. We really, really do. But yeah, that'll wrap it up for this video here on YouTube. Shout out to YouTube, by the way, guys. Love to see that. How many are watching right now live? 206. Very nice. YouTube is alive and kicking in the same way that Twitch is. Fantastic stuff. But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Let me know what you think of this article. Let me know what you think about the Legendary Spear, about the raid, about the conversion, about not having an open world map, about buying the game using my referral link, about subscribing and following on all of my social media. Okay, being ready to game, being ready to blast. Look at these war claws going all over the place. That could be you. That's gonna be you. Next patch. But anyway, that'll do it for now. Do you guys like that tree transition, by the way? Look, they got value out of the water transition, and now they're slamming it again, okay? They loved it. Everyone's like, oh, that water transition was so good, and now we're doing a tree transition. Oh, yeah, look at that. Kind of a little bit of a hint, I think, of some of the Convergence activities, by the way, in between the bosses, in both the Convergence and the raid. But anyway, that'll do it. Enough rambling. Leave your comments down below. Subscribe. Like the video. Watch every other video. Watch the stream as well live. More content to come. And I'll see you next time. GG Gamers. I'm out of here. Boom.